Education Secretary has announced that students taking A-levels and GCSEs next year will receive more generous grades and find out topics before exams.
Delighted that Gavin Williamson, the Education Secretary, joins us now this morning. We'll come on to that in just a moment if we may, but first I wonder if the headline this morning, of course, is on the vaccine. I wonder if we could get your reaction to what we've just heard coming from Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is the Director of US National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, who has come out and criticised the speed with which our government has reacted to this, saying if you go quickly, you do it superficially, people are not going to want to get vaccinated. The UK did not do it as carefully as they would be doing it. They got a couple of days ahead. I don't think that makes much difference. It's interesting hearing somebody, a prominent scientist, albeit in the States, coming out and being critical as the process that our government has gone through at this critical time where our government needs as many people to be keen to get vaccinated as possible.
Well, we have some of the world's best medical regulators in this country, and they truly are world-leading with the world's best scientists based in this country, and they're putting through the trials in terms of the Pfizer vaccine, which they're also doing. But I have every confidence, absolutely every confidence, as if our regulators, with some of the best minds in regulation around the world, say that this vaccine is safe and it is ready to use, that it is actually ready to use. And it's a real credit to them. They've acted with such speed, such dedication and such commitment to make sure that we're in a position to be able to save lives ahead of any other country around the world.
Why do you think he's come out and criticised it so publicly like this?
Well, that's for him to say as to why he's done it. But I personally feel incredibly grateful for the amazing work that our medical regulators have put into turning this round as swiftly as possible. And I think, you know, speaking to family and friends, how grateful they are for the fact that we're going to be in a position to see that vaccine rolled out right across the country. But it's going to be really, really important that we make sure people understand that this is a safe vaccine. This is a vaccine that is going to protect them, but not just protecting them, but also their family, their loved ones and the communities that they live in.
We've also had news that former US presidents have agreed to take the vaccine on television. Obama, George W. Bush, President Clinton. We know, of course, Matt Hancock has said that he will take it live on air as well. Potentially Boris Johnson too. Would you be one of those throwing your hat in the ring as well to set an example for people?
I'd be more than happy to do so. I'm not sure if it'd do you any favours on your viewing figures, as I'm sure your viewers would much rather watch something a lot more interesting than a politician get a vaccine. But if you think that makes great television, I'll be more than happy to come back and join you.
But more important than the TV that it makes, it's setting the example, isn't it? What we need at the moment, and I'm sure all of you are one mind on this in the government, we need people to be confident that the vaccines that we're going to roll out, and hopefully there are more to come, but this one particularly, is going to be safe, and they are willing to do it. If they see our politicians taking it, and you're willing to put yourselves in that position, then hopefully that will make them feel like they should be able to do that too.
Well, absolutely. But what is vital is that the vaccine goes to the people who need it most as a priority, and people are targeted as to who needs the vaccine most. But I certainly will be taking that vaccine. I'll be wanting my whole family, my loved ones, my friends to be taking that vaccine. Because by taking that vaccine, it's not just making them safer, but it's making those loved ones and their community safer. It's so important. But we have the world's best reputation for medical regulation. We also have one of the world's best research bases in this country. And we've seen it with the development and, you know, sort of the vaccine for AstraZeneca at Oxford University, the amazing work that is being done by Imperial. We are a global scientific superpower when it comes to the development and regulation of vaccines. That's why people in this country can have such confidence that the vaccines that are going to be administered here are going to be safe, it's going to protect them, it's going to protect their loved ones.
Absolutely. Well, let's turn to education matters now, and this announcement today that you're making, that students taking A-levels and GCSEs next year are going to receive more...
I do apologise, I can't hear you.
Oh.
Sorry.
OK, let's just...
try again.
Oh, no,
Can you
sorry,
hear us now?
I do apologise. I can hear you again. Sorry, you
Good.
just went... just the sound went there.
So we were talking about moving on to education matters now, and your announcement today about making exams easier, more generous grading, giving students topics in advance. There are concerns, of course, that this is going to devalue the results for students next year, that they'll be branded the year of 2021, and also that it will have an impact on subsequent years as well.
I understand that criticism that's been levelled at this decision, and you know, both as an education secretary, but also as a father of a 16-year-old who is facing exams this year and has been in a situation where she's had to self-isolate. I know that, you know, from first-hand experience that, you know, children right across the country have had to go through so much. And I want to take every step possible to make sure those children are dealt with fairly, with as much generosity as possible, so that their raw potential really can come to the fore, that they're able to get the grades that they truly deserve. And if we've had to take extra measures to deal with the fact that children have missed out on being in school, such as giving advance notice as to where the exams are going to be, you know, the sort of the areas and topics they're going to be examined on, or by having giving them exam aids when they're in the exams, that's a criticism I'm willing to take, because I think doing what's right and doing what's fair for children for this generation is the right thing to do, because we've all seen it with our own children, how this pandemic has impacted them.
The exams have been cancelled north of the border and in Wales as well, Scotland and Wales. I think they're having an assessment in Wales. Was it considered that you may well cancel the exams for next year's students here in England?
So, you know, Scotland have made the decision not to proceed with some of their exams, but are currently proceeding with other exams. But when we look across the world at really high-performing education systems, whether that's Germany, Singapore, Finland, every one of them has made the decision to proceed with exams. And every study...
one of those countries has dealt with the pandemic in a very different way, haven't they? And, of course, what we know here as well, Gavin Williamson, is depending on where you are in the country and depending on the resources that your school has had, depends on the experience you've had as a student taking those exams.
But every study that has been carried out, the one common thing it has found is that children who, from the most disadvantaged backgrounds, children from black and ethnic minority communities, are most disadvantaged under teacher assessment as against under exams, because when children from the most disadvantaged background and from black and ethnic minority communities, when they take exams, they statistically always outperform teacher assessment. So I think exams are the right approach. But the reason that we've taken the exceptional measure of giving advance notice, is because there's a lot of children who will have had a differential in terms of their learning, but children will have been taught the whole curriculum that have not had any form of impact in terms of COVID, in terms of having to self-isolate. So by giving advance notice, then that means teachers and students of those who have suffered disruption are able to focus down on those core areas. And so, yes, they'll have missed some of their curriculum, but they're able to focus on the areas that are so important for them in order for them to be able to succeed in their exams. That, for me, is what's important. We've also set up an expert group to look at the issues that we'll see in terms of differential learning, to see what additional support we can do to ensure that students are able to progress, whether to go to college, to go to university, or go on to, you know, into an apprenticeship or the world of work.
I wanted to ask you about universities because, of course, when students went back in September, they all went back. There was a huge spike as a consequence. There were criticisms that you got that wrong because you allowed them to all go back at once. I know that their return after Christmas in the year is going to be staggered to try to manage that a bit better. But university students are in such a tricky position, aren't they? Because of the fact that they're in an increased risk, they're all mingling there together, and yet they're having to pay full whack on their fees and they're not getting actually what they're paying for.
So what we're wanting to do is make sure it's a staged and gradual return for students back to university, because part of the element of their return to universities is ensuring that all students are offered a test, a non-symptomatic test, to see if they've got COVID, to make sure that they get the best care. Also, we reduce the impact on their friends and the communities that they live in. So we've taken this unique measure to make sure that the interests of students are best protected. But we do want to see, students who've got practical elements to their courses, which are 40% of all students, be returning at the usual time, with the remainder of students staggered over the coming weeks. But we do expect universities to deliver online learning in that time. And it's also why we've put forward an extra £20 million to universities to support students who are impacted by this and are having challenges.
We're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. We're out of time. But Gavin Williamson, thanks for joining us this morning.